Welcome to Super Tuesday, presented by Progressive. It's an SEC showdown tonight from Rocky Top, where the Tennessee Volunteers have won 23 consecutive home games. The 8th-ranked team in the country looks to stay undefeated in conference play as they welcome a Mississippi State team that started the season 11-0. Welcome courtside, everybody. Tom Hart alongside Dane Bradshaw. If you're in the mood for defense, you're in the right place, Dane. These are two of the top 5 defenses in all of college basketball.
They're absolutely elite. For Mississippi State, this is a team that's playing Chris Jans style of basketball. They will double you, they will press you, they will zone you and make you settle from 3, and a big reason for their big-time start in the SEC play has been their defense. On the other side, for Tennessee, man, they go at you physically. They want to punk you. They blow up screens. You will not be able to run your offense effectively. You've got to be able to make some one-on-one plays against them.
Number 1, according to Ken Palm, in defensive efficiency. You know their focus tonight will be on Mississippi State's big man, the senior Tolu Smith.
Tolu Smith has to play a big-time game. He struggled the last 2 outings. They have to have him at his best, but he's going to go up against several big men for Tennessee. They're going to try to wear him down, be physical, but if he can get the ball in good deep post position and get isolation one-on-one, he can be really effective. But don't be surprised if Tennessee throws a few double teams at him as well. Smith,
top 10 in the league in points, rebounds, and field goal percentage. On the other side for this Tennessee program, they've got 4 players averaging double figures. Santiago Vescovi is coming off of one of his best games, though, 22 in a game on the road against Ole Miss. This is a series that started in 1924. Tennessee has dominated it here in Knoxville, 47-11 in the Scruffy City. They'll look to keep that going. They've won 3 in a row against State and 7 of 8. We are ready to go. Mississippi State and Tennessee. It's the 91st season of SEC basketball, and we are just getting underway. Tyreke Key will run the point to start things off for Tennessee. Vescovi plays with them in the backcourt, alongside the freshman Julian Phillips, who gets a touch early.
You'll see a lot of switching by Mississippi State. They must communicate with all the cutters that Tennessee has.
Looking for a post presence. Uros Plavsic gives them 5 a game and gets them on the board early. Here's the starters for Mississippi State, led by a bunch of transfers, especially in the backcourt. Deshaun Davis out of Oregon State, Eric Reed out of Southeast Missouri State. Number 1 is Tolu Smith, guarded by Plavsic. He's probably happy not to see a double team here tonight. And he goes right after the big man, but it falls off.
But that's the look he wants. He has been seeing a ton of double teams. Now that he's going up against bigger opponents, expect him to get more of those one-on-one matchups.
Damwa and Plavsic, the beef inside for Tennessee. Early 3. Early in the shot clock is good for the freshman Tyreke Key.
He was arguably their best scorer in the offseason. Terrific transfer. Has been too hesitant to shoot it from deep. They want to see him be more aggressive.
Said freshman, part of a newcomer after transferring in from Indiana State, but a home state kid. 5-0 start for Tennessee. Kind of expect points to be at a premium tonight. Davis off the mark with his 3. As a Mississippi State team scores only 68 points a game. Tennessee in the mid-70s. Vescovi fires a 3. Nobody picked him up. Tennessee off to an 8-0 start.
Well, as good as Tennessee's defense has been, it's their offense that has been such a concern, specifically the 3-point shooting. Where has it been? Good start early for the Vols.
Just 3 for 15 from deep in a 63-59 win against Ole Miss when conference play started on the 28th of December. DJ Jeffries, good slasher, not a great shooter. Got a mismatch with Plavsic. Will try to fire over the top of him. Barely drew the rim.
You get the big man out on you, make him guard a little bit more, try to take him off the bounce.
Jeffries is playing with an untied shoe right now, so got to fix that. Key off the mark. Loose ball. One of the things that State has excelled at under Chris Jans, great defense and getting to 50-50 balls, and the possession arrow belongs to the visitors from Starkville.
Well, Tennessee's seeing a big hoop early. Vescovi just says, hey, if you're not going to stop me, I'll pull up and shoot it from here. I got plenty of range. What I love about Vescovi is short memory. I mean, 2 games ago, this was a guy that could barely throw it in the ocean, coming off that shoulder injury. 4 for 23 in 2 games. Then his next 2, he goes 14 of 22, starting to find his rhythm.
Now 9 for his last 13 from deep. When State is right, what does it look like on the offensive end?
It's got to go through Tolu Smith, but they got to get help from other places. Right now, they do not have a balanced scoring attack.
Smith draws a near triple team, whips it out. Shot clock at 9. Good ball movement. And Stevenson sees his go in and out. Mississippi State 0 for 4 to start.
And the tough thing for Chris Jansen and the Mississippi State team is I think they've gotten pretty good looks.
Vescovi again, and he's feeling it.
Well, just a horrible start from Mississippi State. One thing you hang your hat on is how well you defend the three. That's not working, and then you're missing the open looks that you're rarely going to get against such a pesky Tennessee defense.
Volunteers 4 for 6 from the floor, 3 for 4 from deep. They get Plavsic for the reach over the back, his first, and the only thing that's gone right for Mississippi State. On the other side, Santiago Vescovi red hot.
Well, he is feeling it right now. He's a catch and stick guy, but he can do it off the bounce too. He's so good either on the ball, off the ball, does so many things for this team. And this is where Tennessee starts to look like a Final Four team, is when they play that complementary basketball and don't put so much pressure on their defense to pitch a shutout.
Couple of threes early for Vescovi. He's got 6. Vols have as many makes from behind the arc in the first 3 minutes plus of this game as they did the entire contest against Ole Miss to start conference play. C.J. Jeffries looking for Tolu Smith. Smith didn't get it, but 16 feet from the basket. Jeffries again for 3. Another miss for State, and then Anu got his hands in there and took it away.
He's just doing all the little things right now for Tennessee, coming off a career best game at Ole Miss. First player off the bench for Coach Barnes.
And one of the last bigs on the floor for Barnes in that tight win against Ole Miss. Foul on the drive from Vescovi. That's on Cameron Matthews. First team foul on Mississippi State. Man, oh man, it has been a while since Mississippi State won a road game against a top 10 opponent. They'll try to do it against one of the best coaches in college basketball, Rick Barnes. His team is off to a fantastic start offensively. And fan favorite Zakai Ziegler enters the game less than 4 minutes in.
When you're an opponent against Tennessee, you sit here and say, we're down 11-0. And here comes Ziegler.
Yeah, one of their best players, and he gets an easy look to Olivier Nkamhoua.
Well, you get your best passer taking the ball out of bounds. And keep your eye on 5 and White. If you're not familiar with him as a college basketball fan, you should be. Such a terrific defender in the heart and soul of this Tennessee team.
Tennessee takeaway. Mississippi State is 0 for 5 with a couple of turnovers here tonight. We're talking with Rick Barnes this afternoon, and the conversation can always go a lot of different ways. We're talking football a little bit, talking hoops, and he said, I cannot script anything. It's Vescovi, and who would have scripted Vescovi getting off to this hot a start from deep? UT 4 for 5 from deep. Vescovi is a perfect 3 for 3. And a Mississippi State turnover. No makes on 5 attempts. 2 turnovers for Mississippi State. Right now, the Volunteers pitching a shutout, 16-0. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Progressive Insurance. It's easy to bundle your home and car insurance at Progressive.com. Great history between these two programs. At First Shot, Ray Mears coming back from the SEC Championship 1967, win against State. Tennessee sent Ben Howland's team packing in Tampa last year. That's Zakai Ziegler with the jump shot. Josiah Jordan-James had a great game in that one. We saw Ernie Brunfield. We saw Shane Power trying to chase down some defenders, and C.J. Watson. And we get our first look at Josiah Jordan-James, who just entered the game a moment ago. State hasn't won here in Knoxville since 2015. I was thinking back to that tournament game last year. James went off, 4 of 6 from deep, 14 of his points came in the second half. That was one of his best games as a Volunteer, and I felt in that one that he was, it's kind of weird to say because he's had such impactful games before, but kind of coming out of his shell as a shooter.
Well, he might not have been their most valuable player, but you could argue the most important player. He gives them the versatility in their lineups. He can play the 3, the 4. Coach Barnes even talked in the offseason about him playing some 5, the way they want to be able to spread you out. So, such a terrific sign for Vol fans to see 30 back on the court.
Been a while since he's been on the floor. Last played on December 7th against Eastern Kentucky. Ziegler with the steal. Another Mississippi State turnover.
Those are amazing hands and instincts, Tom. Ziegler makes a bad pass, but he doesn't give up on the play, and then comes down the court and backpedals, gets a deflection, and saves a possession.
He'd make a pretty good defensive back, wouldn't he?
Man, he's tough.
Shaquille Moore on the floor for Mississippi State as Chris Jans has looked for an answer on both ends of the floor. Will McNair posting up. They don't get it to him. Mississippi State 0 for 5 to start this game.
Well, and unfortunately for the Bulldogs, their offense gets worse with Tolu Smith on the bench, but they got to give him some rest.
Shot clock at 3. Fantastic D by Ziegler, and he forces Jeffries into a back rim jumper. And the ball saved at midcourt. Great effort by State. The Mississippi State team that started the season 11-0. They lost to Drake on a neutral site contest in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then lost to Alabama in open conference play. They'll get their first bucket on goaltending. We talked to Chris Jans before the game today. He said, you know, I felt like we were leaking oil. I didn't know that I was pushing my team so hard, but our legs were like late February heavy. So they've hit the reset button for Jans, who is the 3-time WAC Coach of the Year, and still getting to know his guys a little bit.
Well, he's an outstanding coach, and credit to him for listening to his players and trusting them and building up that rapport early to say, you know what, maybe we do need to back it off a little bit and go for what they had 4 games in 9 days. So it's been hard for them to get their legs, but they're showing to be a little bit rusty right now.
Jeffries to the free throw line to try to make it a 3-point play. He's 88 points away from 1,000 in his career. Olive Branch, Mississippi native. Started his college career at Memphis. And that's the first ball they've seen go through the hoop tonight.
I like seeing Jeffries take it to the basket there. He really loves to pull up, especially when he goes left, but they need him to put some more pressure on the rim.
The foul was on Tyreek Key a moment ago. Came before the goaltend. John Mashack now on the floor for Tennessee. State has turned to the zone the last few possessions, try to slow down the Volunteers, who have made 6 of their first 8.
It's hard to get set up in a zone or in your press, miss after miss, but able to after that make.
James has missed a couple of mid-range jumpers. Mississippi State lost against Alabama 78-67. Had a great crowd on hand. That was a sellout. 7 threes in the first half. They were down 4. Offensive rebound didn't go. Putback didn't work. Ziegler ends up with it. And Mississippi State gave up a double-double to the freshman of the week, Brandon Miller, who went for 19 and 11. That is a really good Alabama team on both ends of the floor.
Well, and you look at some of the missed opportunities for Mississippi State when you talk about the free throw woes they had. Tolu Smith, 3 of 15. Some of the open threes that Deshaun Davis missed. And you say, yeah, I know Alabama was expected to beat the Bulldogs, but even though you've got a favorite entering your home court, you just got to try to defend that home court in SEC play.
I think we're seeing the value of defensive teams. A third of the nation's top 15 KenPom defensive efficiency teams reside in the SEC, including 2 of them on the floor here tonight.
You know, with all the analytics, Tom, you would think that helps the offense. Oh, here's where he's best at, this part of the court. I would argue it's made the defenses a lot better. And you see that with some of those top defenses in the SEC and the scouting reports and the personnel.
That's a second on Tyreek Key.
Just good job here, moving his feet on the perimeter, does more. Known more for his ability to get steals on the other end. That time shows you he's able to move his feet, get the charge.
Jamel Horton on the floor now. It's America East Defensive Player of the Year. University at Albany. And that 3 is off the mark. Key didn't grab it. He's still out there with 2 fouls. Keyshawn Murphy got inside and deep. And an over the back foul will be bristled on Will McNair, the 6'11 transfer who came with his coach from New Mexico State. It's hard to see, Dane, and I don't want anybody changing the channel, but Mississippi State's offense has not shown to be one that can come back from great deficits, and they're down 13 here 8 minutes in.
I think the thing for Mississippi State is don't get overwhelmed by the score right now. They intentionally leave people open from three. Now they can test it, but they want you to settle from three. Tennessee has a tendency to go on long scoring droughts and miss from deep. So yes, while they're connecting on 4 or 5, our Tennessee from deep, the goal coming into this game was to have the ball settle for 20+ three-pointers in this game. So you got to play your style of play and hope they start missing.
Meanwhile, Kamwa knocks down the 15-footer. State has been giving Tennessee that shot out of the zone, and that's the first one that's gone. Quick move by Tolu Smith, and quick enough to draw the foul. You're seeing kind of how this guy's game has grown. Fifth-year senior will go to the free throw line. First foul on Adu. It's an 18-3 Tennessee lead. Welcome back to Thompson Bowling Arena. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. 5th in the country in average attendance, nearly 17,000 a game here hard by the Tennessee River. And Volunteers, Dane, have gotten it done defensively. Rick Barnes says easily my best team defensively in my career, and it's not just team defense, it's individuals.
I've said before, as an opposing coach, there's nobody on Tennessee's roster you look at and say, let's go at that guy when he comes to the game or at this spot on the court. And there's the evidence. It's just amazing how much pride these guys take in their one-on-one defense. Yes, they have help position and they're often in passing lanes, but they don't gamble. And the reason they create so many turnovers and steals is because of the ball pressure and success that they have in their one-on-one opportunity on the defensive end.
Tolu Smith to the free throw line. To that point, Tennessee's played 13 games. They've forced 15 turnovers or more 12 times. And from an individual standpoint, they've only allowed 2 20-point scores this season. Another one coming for Smith. Preseason first team All-SEC. Said he takes his leadership seriously, and now he's a bigger voice on this Mississippi State team. Referenced when he first came to Starkville, Abdul Adu, another big that he roomed with, really taught him how to be an SEC player. Now he's trying to pass that on and be the loudest voice in the room with this team.
And good to see him knock down those 2 free throws because he struggled mightily in their last game. He did not go home. He stayed in the gym till 3 o'clock in the morning, was in the locker room getting shots up, did not sleep after that loss.
3 o'clock, even Dave's Dark Horse Tavern is closed at 3. That is a long night in the hump. And first 3 goes from Keyshawn Murphy, second-year freshman out of Birmingham. Tama with the screen, put Matthews on his back at midcourt. Milos Plavcic gets rid of it. Here's Kamwa from the logo.
And that's the shot they're going to get against this zone. Mississippi State has covered up the three-point shooting since Tennessee's early hot start. And now both James and Kamwa found themselves open several times right at that SEC logo.
Vescovi takes it away, saves it to Ziegler, gets it back, and draws the foul. And he'll go to the free throw line.
You talk about chemistry and knowing where your teammate is without having to communicate. Vescovi and Ziegler caused this turnover, and Vescovi's able to save it out of bounds right to his teammate, really without even looking, and then just a thing of beauty on the other end in transition.
Two free throws coming for Vescovi. Some housekeeping. I said earlier Tyreek Key had 2 fouls and stayed in the game. He only has 1. James had picked up another one. Pat Adams is talking to the scorers table as Vescovi goes to the free throw line. I don't know what he's attempting to clean up here, but they may want to look and make sure that wasn't a flagrant foul, but usually he'd have another official with him. Now they want to make sure it was indeed on Matthews, and that's the second on Matthews. So there you go, not Murphy after all.
Well, Tom, this guy at the free throw line, Santiago Vescovi, with 3 triples already in this game, and really should be no surprise that as conference play has begun, he's gotten harder. Last year, he was 44% from 3. That was #1 in the SEC, and his percentage actually went up in league play. You know how hard that is to do when the scouting report is on you and everybody knows your game, and yet he still is able to hit at a high clip.
Another one coming for Vescovi. Our men's basketball Thursday night matchup. Jaime Jaquez leads number 10 UCLA against rival USC, and Boogie Ellis. Coverage from Pauley Pavilion begins 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on ESPN and the app.
USC and Big Ten. USC and Big Ten doesn't really jive right, does it? I mean, that's a 2024 event, but still, when I see that rivalry and that matchup, it is hard for me to accept that we're looking at a Big Ten team there.
Denial inside is a takeaway by Vescovi. He gives him 2.5 steals a game. That's 4th best in the SEC. Kamwa turnaround. Got it.
That's money for him. He's gaining so much confidence as the season goes on. He's healthy after last year's injury and has that high release that Rick Barnes has taught so many of his great bigs.
Active hands, Ziegler with the tip.
I mean, it's tough to complete a pass, much less get a good shot off.
Well, Murphy settles for a deep 3. And predictable results. State 1 for 7 from 3, 2 for 13 overall, and we got a walk before that shot came off. Tennessee's bigs comfortable in the mid-range, huh?
Yeah, and Vescovi doing a great job with those deflections leading to steals. And then look how easy the game is for Kamwa right now. That was something as a freshman he was overthinking, but he peeks over his shoulder, sees that the double's coming, doesn't even need to dribble. He's in a spot, high release, bucket.
Tennessee, after the turnover, will set up some full court pressure. The Tennessee team #1 in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency for the 6th straight week.
Don't forget, they played some high-quality competition. They were able to hold Kansas's Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick to half of their combined average and 5 of 23 shooting.
Well, Dick has had a tremendous freshman season. That's a top 10 NBA pick. Last time I looked at the draft projections, State honors the Tennessee turnover at one of its own. 3 turnovers last 4 possessions.
Mississippi State gets so much of their offense from their defense. They get 10 steals a game, but right now they just can't get any of those live ball turnovers. See if they can create something on the defensive end to help their offense.
Kamwa guarded by Reed, has a size advantage. Vescovi, good ball fake, finally gets it out. Ziegler tees it up. Sean Davis out of the Bronx. And a couple different stops, including the aforementioned Pac-12, where he led the league in assists.
When's the last time you saw Mississippi State get a paint touch? Was it the Jeffries and one?
Might have been. You know how that turnaround goes. Yeah, they haven't had a whole lot of looks at the rim, and that's where they do most of their damage. Mississippi State just 1 for 3 at the rim so far tonight. Lopchich, 1 too many fakes. And 3 seconds.
Well, and I put that a little on Kamwa. Plavsic needs deep post position. That was a little bit too far out. Gets the big man in a tough spot. Vols up 14 nonetheless.
Welcome back to Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville, where Tennessee got off to a rocking start, led 16-0. They've held back Mississippi State with great defense, lead 24-10. And a lot of things Rick Barnes' team does well defensively, and 2 of the best defensive teams in the country tonight. But #1 is steals and what that does for them on the offensive end.
Right, and the activity with their hands and the deflections. This is a group of players here that are so solid defensively. Right now, Tennessee with the upper hand in that department in this game. And you look at Meshack for Tennessee. This guy plays right at half the game, yet still able to produce almost 2 steals per game. Big reason why he's in the rotation, not on the court now, but just another illustration of why the depth for Tennessee is so effective against their opponents, and they don't lose anything when they go to their bench, offensively or defensively for the most part.
Tennessee scores 74 points a game. They get 21 points a game off of turnovers, and already tonight have outscored State in that category 9-0. Loose ball, and Vescovi takes the pass from Julian Phillips, who's on his backside.
And it's really tough for Tolu Smith down low when they don't have to respect the outside shooting from Mississippi State.
Tyreek Key throws in his second three. Tennessee 5 for 8 from deep. Chris Jans didn't like the way they defended that one. He's going to take a quick timeout. Tennessee up 17. Well, Tennessee rocking and rolling on both ends of the floor here. They're 11-2 on this season. They're top 10 in the country, coming in at number 8 in the AP poll, number 9 in the coaches poll. The defense has been the name of the game. They also have a couple of key wins. Remember, they won the Atlantis tournament by shutting down Kansas, knocked off Maryland in a road game in a neutral site, I should say, in Brooklyn. Number 1 in defensive field goal percentage and 3-point field goal percentage. And they've held 8 opponents to 50 points or less. They're only allowing 53.2 points a game.
And here's the scary thing. They are getting better at almost every position. When you look at the emergence of Adu right now, the addition of Josiah Jordan-James to the lineup, Tyreek Key's starting to shoot it with a ton of confidence. So now they're starting to click both on the offensive end, and you knew what you had defensively.
Reed off the mark with the 3. State 1 for 8 from behind the arc. Outside of Phillips, and shooter's touch for the freshman.
And you just shake your head if you're Chris Jans. That's the shot you want. You double the post to make him kick it out. On the season, statistically, a non-shooter Phillips got the roll, though.
Tolu Smith once again catches and gets rid of it quickly, and for the second time in doing so, picks up the foul. That one on Jonas Adu.
Waku's ready for that double team that Mississippi likes to do in their half-court defense, and Phillips gets the roll. Was just 4 of 23 from deep coming into this one, but that's a shot he can certainly make. On this end of the court, I really like the adjustment Tolu Smith made. He got the position he wanted to. Rather than take his time and waste some dribbles, he went straight up with it, caught Adu off guard.
Tolu's been in Stark Vegas for a few years now. He's also had to deal with a string of injuries. Knocks down another free throw, good to see. Broken foot, toe injury, had COVID last year, dislocated patella. He had a hard time getting on the floor. It seemed like every time he was back, he'd have another setback.
When he is healthy and he gets that deep post position, I think he's one of the top 3 big man scorers down low in the SEC.
Side Jordan-James back on the floor for Tennessee. Vescovi, quick release. Just a second rebound for Tolu Smith. He's top 5 in the league, averaging 8.5 a game. The post touches turn into mid-range touches. Elbow jumper, no. I think State and Tennessee at that point really good at getting offensive rebounds, and Julian Phillips creates a foul after giving up the offensive board.
Well, I think Stevenson caught Tennessee off guard there a little bit. He really wasn't open, but just says, you know what, I'm going to go up with this thing anyway, and gets the foul. This is a guy that averaged 15 points at Southern Miss.
He's from just down the road in Starkville at Columbus, Mississippi. Career 1,200-point scorer. Now 12 of 15 from the free throw line on the season.
This is a really big last 5 minutes for Mississippi State. They've got to lock down defensively, because you felt like if this game got even above 65, they were in trouble, much less a 70-point game and above. They just don't have the offensive firepower to compete in that high of a scoring affair.
Tennessee scored the first 16 points in this game to take control. Keith from deep. Offensive rebound, and no good. State comes down with it. into the hands of DJ Jeffries. Here's Deshaun Davis, gives it up to Murphy. Shot clock at 3. And Vescovi's double turned into a turnover. College basketball quadruple header for you on the SEC Network, capped off by this big game. We'll be on the Plains, and then it's going to be rocking. Number 9 Arkansas, led by Ricky Council, take on Wendell Green Jr. Number 22 Auburn. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. What's the deal with Arkansas's fantastic freshman, one of the top picks in the draft?
Yeah, Nick Smith still out with the knee management right now, and then you had the terrible injury to Trevin Brazile out for the season.
Vescovi knocks down another. That's his 4th 3. And Nick Smith may just be the top college player taken in the draft. He's likely going to be a top 5 pick. He's an Arkansas native. But he didn't play right off the bat, trying to get that knee healthy. Played a few, and now sitting at the moment. And they say it's indefinite.
He's also an emotional vocal leader for that team as well, despite being just a freshman. And then down on the Plains, just to stay on that promo for a minute, Bruce Pearl's team, not the high-scoring team you're accustomed to, but boy, they can defend similar to a lot of these top SEC teams.
Toby Awaka is fouled, and he'll go to the free throw line.
I mean, they just come at you in waves, don't they? Every person that's come in this game for Tennessee has helped build this type of lead, and Awaku just uses that big old frame, is patient down low, and gets his and one.
That's a second on McNair. And Tennessee going back to the free throw line. They're already 7 of 12 from the line, and Mississippi State doesn't usually put opposing teams in the line this often.
One of those big resume building games for Tennessee was that Maryland one, where arguably the best game of the year for Awaku.
Had 7 points in that one against the Terps. That was part of a doubleheader in Brooklyn. They ran into old friend Frank Martin, who was getting ready to take the floor of this UMass team in game 2. You never know who you're going to see at the gym, right? I've ran into famed former White Sox slugger Jack Parkman before the game today.
That's right. David Keith. You didn't realize you weren't the celebrity that was getting the handshake, did you?
An officer and a gentleman. Shot clock at 7. Here's Zakai Ziegler. Wow, what a pass! And a fantastic finish by Julian Phillips.
And give Phillips credit for cutting on that. He typically crashes the glass hard. That time, instead of the offensive rebound, he got the spoon feed and took care of business from there.
Josiah Jordan-James with the steal. Ziegler will give it back. Oh, Tennessee flying now. 10-0 run for Tennessee. Largest lead of the night for the Volunteers. Once again, it's defense leading to offense. There's still plenty of time to screw it up. We still have 3 minutes left in the first half. Did you see Seth's tie, though? Speaking of screwing things up.
As Charles Barkley once said, what's the tie you didn't pick out with, Rock, right?
40-14. Couldn't ask for a better studio crew on the U tonight. By the way, Lenardi sent out his bracketology this afternoon. He's got 7 SEC teams in, including this Mississippi State team as a 9 seed. So listen, it's going to be tough to win on the road in the league. Tennessee has won 23 straight here at home. It's going to be tough to win in this building. I don't think anybody's going to win in this building this year.
No, and this was a really bad matchup for Mississippi State, but they needed to be low scoring, like we mentioned. If you're Chris Jans and you come into the game, you said, hey, we're going to make Tennessee take 12 threes in their first 25 attempts. You say, that's what we want. That's who we are defensively. We make you settle from 3. Bad news for Mississippi State is Tennessee has found their shooting stroke from deep in this first half.
Here's Kamani Hamilton at the free throw line. That foul was on Vescovi. 6'7" freshman has one more coming. Hamilton knocks down the second. There are times, and you've seen it, where this Tennessee offense gets stuck in the mud. Now, the points off turnovers, get 21 a game, is an easy solution to that. But what other advancements and changes have you seen from him on the offensive end the last month or so?
Well, I think one of them is Olivier Nkamhoua down in the post. You look back to last year, and what was something that really prevented them from going deep in the NCAA tournament? It wasn't just the three-point shooting. It was not being able to impose their will down low with a deep post threat scorer. And we got a guy like James knocking down shots as well. But I think Nkamhoua, not on the court right now, is as big of a piece to them having a deep run as any.
James is the difference maker. Hadn't played since December 7th. Interesting, when we were at shoot-around today and talking with Rick Barnes as Jamel Horton gets one to go, and after stretch and warm-up, Josiah kind of came over to Coach and was good to go, get back into drills. He said, Coach, you want me running the 3 or the 4? Rick Barnes didn't hesitate. He said, you're at the 4.
Yeah. And don't be surprised if there's times this season, based on the matchup, where they put him at the 5, because look at that right there. That's all going inside to Josiah Jordan-James, who, by the way, is capable of running the 1 for you. You post up on the block and treat him as a point center almost.
Tennessee 9 of 14 from 3 here in the first half. They made only 3 threes in their low-scoring win on December 28th against Ole Miss. And meanwhile, you see the numbers. They've held State to just 1 for 10 from behind the arc.
This Tennessee team doesn't play the scoreboard either. I mean, their effort and intensity right now in this defensive possession is right up there with the first possession of the game.
Shaquille Moore with the bucket. I think the only way this Tennessee basketball team could be any more popular with the fan base, the style of play, the results, is if Hendon Hooker walked onto the team. I mean, they love the squad. They love the way they play. Big Orange Bowl win for Tennessee a couple of days ago against Clemson as Tyreek Key returns to the floor.
Been a good year for Tennessee fans, and former quarterback Josh Dobbs now with the Tennessee Titans as well has a chance to start for an AFC South title.
Now ran into former Tennessee quarterback coach Nick Sheridan in San Antonio. He's now on the Washington Huskies staff, and that was the first thing he brought up. He said, hey, my guy Dobbs is starting tonight. Got the start through a touchdown in that Thursday night game.
You guys had the same major, if I recall, right?
What was that?
Aerospace engineer. You just took the broadcasting route?
Maybe space. Hamilton, deep 3, and that one goes. It's kind of what the offense has turned into for Mississippi State. Tennessee with a 46-point first half. It's the largest deficit of the half on the season for State. Previous high was just 5. Mississippi State has allowed most points in the half, any half this season. That's the story from here. Back to the studio. Here's Kevin Connors and the fellas. Presented by Progressive at the half. All Tennessee in every which way. The 8th-ranked team in the country looking for its 24th consecutive home win with a comfortable lead. Everybody, Tom Hart alongside Dane Bradshaw. And not much went right for Mississippi State. Just about everything went right for Tennessee.
We knew what Tennessee was defensively. The question mark was on the offensive end, especially from deep, and boy, did they answer that one. I mean, every player on Tennessee's roster is playing with supreme confidence, and you see what they got started early on. The three-point shot was falling, 9 of 14 from deep, and this is a Mississippi State team that wants you to settle from 3. They wanted Tennessee to take a bunch in the first half. but boy, did it backfire. And Tennessee found a way to score everywhere possible. You see Conwell with the turnaround, and welcome back to the side. Jordan James gets his first bucket in about a month on that alley-oop play right there. And next thing you know, it is 46-22 at the half, where Mississippi State's scratching their head saying, guys, it's about pride right now. Lock up defensively and try to slow this game down.
Tennessee started the game on a 16-0 run. Special thanks to Jeremy Mills pulling this one up. Tennessee has the second most runs of 10-0 or better in Division I, behind Rutgers. Largest halftime lead in an SEC game for Tennessee since January of 2019. It was the worst half for Mississippi State in just about every area. Opponent was points differential, opponent's field goal percentage, opponent's three-pointers made. Deshaun Davis commits a foul. That's his first. Cameron Matthews moved into the starting second half lineup by Chris Jans in Stevenson's spot. Trap came all the way out in the wing as Vescovi backed up. Santiago Vescovi for three. Mississippi State hasn't beaten a top 10 team on the road since February 14th of 1995. Deshaun Davis gets his first bucket to go.
You like the first couple of possessions for the Bulldogs. Chris Jans has to be happy with the defensive contest on one end and knocking down the open three on the other.
By the way, that 95 game, Marcus Grant had 23, Eric Dampier had 17. Richard Williams squad and their first ever win at Rupp. Kentucky would go on to win 26 consecutive SEC games, wouldn't lose again until next year's SEC championship game against that Mississippi State team that went on that great postseason run.
Some great players that have come through this Bulldog program. When I was playing, Jamont Gordon was one of those guys. And since the SEC Network launch, I remember watching Reggie Perry just a few years back dominating the SEC.
Speaking of dominating, Jeffrey's got to stretch it out a little bit. Rick Barnes at the half told his team that we're in a similar position last year against Arkansas, up 21 at the half, but allowed them to come back and take the lead. Can we finish this the right way, was his message. They led 50-29 at the half against Arkansas last year here in Knoxville on March 5th. They had to cling to hold on to a 78-74 win. How do you keep the focus and intensity in a second half when you've dominated your opponent in the first half?
I think we're seeing it right now is he has the luxury of such depth to where he says, if you're not ready to play, guess who is? Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan James. And they just keep getting better with the guys that come in. And now that James is back in the rotation, Tennessee's best lineup includes Ziegler, James, Vescovi, and then figure out who's going to be that three-man, who's going to be the five-man best suited for that game. But these three that we're seeing now will be on the court come March at the end of ball games.
Ball was kicked by Ziegler. No, it did give him a foul. Pardon me. I thought he stopped it for a kick, but got him for a trip.
Well, he's the head of the snake defensively, and he just impacts the game. Literally, when he gets on the court, something good happens for Tennessee. That time, Mississippi State bailed out.
Yeah, it looked like Davis just lost his footing on it. Deshaun Davis with the drive and kick. Matthews walked with it. Another Mississippi State turnover. Josiah Jordan James is showing some energy out there, huh? Looks like there's a guy who missed being on the court.
Yeah, I really think that alley-oop dunk got him going. He missed a couple of those open jumpers in the lane. Then he got that alley-oop dunk. Then he got the three-pointer, and you could see him get some of the nerves out of the way, being back on the court really for the first time in about a month.
I was talking to him before the game. He said what really has him focused today is he saw you walking your dog downtown Knoxville around Christmas when you're on vacation. It's a good family when you bring the dog on vacation. Plavsic with the bucket.
If I would have known he was nearby, I would have hired him as a dog sitter. Yeah, I'm sure he would have loved that.
Did he share the doggy bag? Ziegler with the interception. Reverses it, and they'll count it as it came off the window.
We talked about the immediate impact Ziegler has when he comes into the game. This guy's just so good on both ends of the court, running the show on the offensive end, but running the show defensively.
Well, I'm curious, because I've spent a lot of time in downtown Knoxville. Where did you find a place to walk your dog downtown Knoxville?
So it was actually just a slope of a green patch above above the parking lot there, which in the wee hours of the night became snow.
Just go to Sequoia Hills. There's plenty of space over there. Smith got tangled up. What color was the snow again?
It turned colors.
Tennessee by 25. Plavsic all alone.
Everything going Tennessee's way right now, getting the lucky bounce, and there's Phillips really with a nice look there. Plavsic fortunate with that one-hand attempt for the catch.
Wow. Tolu Smith, I know this isn't the sexiest thing to watch, but if you like watching good post offense, just watch him every possession.
Well, and he felt the defender Plavsic start to lean on him. As soon as he felt that body weight on him, he took advantage with the imbalance of Plavsic, made him pay.
He was in Plavsic's head even before then, trying to get position and find angles. Here's how it finished for State.
Watch how Tolu Smith feels Plavsic start to lean on him. As soon as Plavsic says, hey, I'm going to put a little weight on you here, there, sticks his chest out. Plavsic, a little bit of a pull the chair. Usually you use that in the defensive term, but Tolu Smith is the one that did it there.
Out of Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, spent a year playing high school ball in Hawaii and freshman year at Western Kentucky. Was on the North Shore of Oahu as a senior.
Coach Jans raves about his leadership and his work ethic. And I was really impressed by Tolu Smith and shoot around today. It's one thing to talk when your group's on the floor. It's another thing to talk when the second wave is in. And he was just constantly communicating. And as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, really looked up to guys like Abdul Adu, previous veterans, and the way they led by example.
Ziegler from way downtown.
And it's just one of those nights for Tennessee, isn't it?
Moore. Jeffries going for it, crashed into his own teammate.
Tom, I had that Kentucky-Missouri game last week.
Congrats.
And it was one of those where, you felt like the home team couldn't play any better and the road team couldn't play any worse. And I think we're seeing some of that right now.
Kobe Brown had 30 in that one for Mizzou after 31 against Illinois the game before. What a stretch it's been for that Missouri team. And they got a big one tomorrow night at Arkansas. Tolu Smith gets a bucket. He'll be at the free throw line when we return. But before that, Kai Ziegler putting his fingerprints in this game.
As the Kai Ziegler from deep says, shot clock running down. No problem, coach. I got this from about 35.
Welcome back to Knoxville. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. We'll go rolling on the Tennessee later tonight. Maybe watch some underwater submarine races. I don't know. Big games highlight our January schedule. The NFL Week 18 season finale features a Saturday doubleheader. First, Chiefs-Raiders. Then, Josh Dobbs and the Titans take on the Jags for the AFC South title. Sunday, the FCS championship game between North Dakota State and South Dakota State is on ABC. And Monday night, the national championship game. TCU takes on Georgia with coverage on every platform, TV, radio, and digital. Here's Tolu Smith at the free throw line.
You got a preferred coverage, the home team channel, the coaches. I'll mess up some of the names for the channels.
I had the McAfee cast on my second screen, but I can't go more than 2 screens.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so I get Fowler and Herbie on the big one, and they get full audio. And if something really weird happens, like Cole Kublik takes down a tackling dummy, then I'll quickly rewind and turn on the audio on the other one.
I enjoy the coaches circle where they really break down what's happening.
Coaches film room.
Yeah, the coaches film room. Thank you.
I don't think we have that this year, but they didn't ask.
Oh man, all right.
But go ahead, promote something that doesn't exist anymore.
You know me, always helping the ratings.
There's so many different ways you could go. Of all the coaches we spent time with, I would absolutely, basketball-wise, I would absolutely put Rick Barnes in a coach's film room type game. We walked in today, and he said, man, I've watched more football over this bowl season than I think I ever have before.
Yeah, I'd want them to do nothing but review the officials' calls. This guy does not forget. He does not forget a missed call from, it doesn't matter, back at Providence, Clemson. He can tell you the date, the time, the score, and how it impacted his team.
Keyshawn Murphy enters. Kansas hung on for a win against Oklahoma State at Allen Fieldhouse the other day by all accounts, a missed call at the end. The Oklahoma State player was fouled and no whistle. I said, kind of brought that up on the side. Hey, did you see that one? Don't get me started, he said, on things that happened at Allen Fieldhouse. Ziegler lobs. Tomlin's calling for it. And luckily, he springs right back to his feet after an awkward fall and the foul from Will McNair Jr., his 3rd.
I think one of the underappreciated things about this Tennessee team is how many ball handlers and point guards they have on the court at one time. You literally have 3 guys with Vescovi, Ziegler, and Key that can play the point and bring it up. And so when you go up against this Mississippi State pressure and traps and different things that they try to do, it's ultimately ineffective because there's just so many ball handlers on the court.
Now this is interesting. They're saying it's not a shooting foul.
He wasn't passing it.
So they never had possession, no possession, so he can't give him 2 shots because Kamwan never had it.
It's amazing chemistry between you and Joe Lindsey just now. Pros.
We go
Didn't
way
even have to come over.
Nope. I shared hair product with him before the game, so he owes me. Julian Phillips. Push shot. He's got 9.
They really like to post him up, and he's done so much damage just on the offensive glass. Coach Barnes talked about him being one of the most effective freshmen in the country. Maybe the stats don't jump out, but the impact he has on the game.
You think he's a better shooter than what he's shown so far statistically?
I do, and I think he's going to really need to increase that shooting with Josiah Jordan-James back in if he wants to keep his minutes up at that 4 spot.
Increase the shooting or the making?
Or the making,
yes. As Andy Kennedy once said, don't need shot takers, we need shot makers, and in 14 minutes and 11 seconds, he's going to have a shot of makers. 14 foul in Tennessee here in the second half, and that's going to put Jamel Horton Jr. at the free throw line. Grew up in Queens. Ended up at Seward Community College in Kansas and then Pratt Community College before going back upstate University at Albany.
Got one of the stranger releases too. Watch where he brings this ball from one side to the other.
Yeah, it starts in Fountain City.
Yeah.
And it ends up in Sevierville.
He's going to go on his left shoulder.
That might have been the straightest one he shot all day. In terms of form.
But not really that shot pocket you're accustomed to seeing.
Good hands by Vescovi. Ziegler fires it inside. And another 8-footer for Julian Phillips.
Just such an impressive freshman, and he's been mature beyond his years. And typically, Most freshmen in the offseason are in Rick Barnes' doghouse. And he keeps saying, oh, well, he's got to learn how to work. He's got to learn how to accept criticism, all these things. That was never the case with Phillips. This is a guy that Coach Barnes has been high on since he set foot on campus. Just a great mindset and tremendous work ethic.
Second foul on Zakai Ziegler. Mentioned earlier that Joe Lunardi sent out his bracketology, has 7 SEC teams in, 2 on the bubble, and has Mississippi State in the 8-9 game. And of course, it's going to be tough to win here, but what do you think Mississippi State needs to do within league play? And I know we're second game of conference play, but how can they realize that opportunity to be a tournament team?
Well, they've got to keep the game in the 60s, and you know this has been a tough night for them because Tennessee has been red hot from 3. To Mississippi State's defense, there's been a lot of nights where we've seen Tennessee not be able to throw it in the ocean, and tonight has not been one of them. So they've got to get the game in the 60s, but their offense has to get up there too. I mean, they can't put so much pressure on their defense or Tolu Smith. They've got to get some more scoring from guys like Shaquille Moore or DJ Jeffries, Davis as well. And you look at Tennessee, which has, what, 5 guys averaging double figures? Mississippi State has 1. They've got to get.
And to be clear, they're never going to be, even if they could shoot, a team that's going to score in the 80s. 3 out of the last 4 years, Chris Jans has had a team that was 330 plus in tempo. This is the style he wants to play, and defensively what he wants to do. They just need to get more shots to go in. They're shooting 42% on the season.
And I'll be real curious, if I'm Chris Jans, this may be a throwaway the film game, you know, because you got to be really concerned. Now, you can't allow that. I mean, that's not Mississippi State basketball. You communicate that as well.
Throw away the film like we're that bad tonight on the broadcast?
Yeah. Well, at least put it on mute. But you got to worry about the psyche right now of your team, because you're now going to fall to 0-2 in SEC play after all that momentum you built in non-conference, and you just can't lose too much confidence or not be able to have that edge going into the rest of the schedule.
That's not going to help as Mashack erase that opportunity.
Because you know who's not feeling sorry for you is the Ole Miss Rebels, who they got coming up, a CBS game at 1 o'clock on the 7th.
They get Ole Miss, they go to Georgia, go to Auburn, and then they got a tough stretch at Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, at Alabama. They draw TCU in the Big 12 Challenge. That is not easy.
But I would argue the rivalry game is coming at the perfect time. I mean, you turn the page so much quicker from a game like this and get your focus back on the next game when you have a rival. And the fans can get distracted with that, and they can put this game behind them as well. Chris Jans, despite the scoreboard, there were 6 coaching changes in the SEC this offseason. And just about everybody you talk to, media, assistant coaches, current coaches, everybody felt like, man, there's some good hires in this league, but I'm not sure there's a better fit than Chris Jans at Mississippi State. We're not seeing it right now with the way the scoreboard is, but let me tell you something, that guy can coach the ball.
Plavcic is into double figures, and Ziegler picks up another assist. His career high is 8. That came against State last year, and he had 8 assists against just 1 turnover. He's got matching 8 assists, 2 turnovers tonight. Stevenson, 17-footer.
Well, what I love there from Tennessee, despite the breakdown, is how mad Kamwa was after that. I mean, there it is. It's a 65-33 game, and you're ticked off at your teammate for not calling out the switch.
Kamwa muscles up, takes some of his frustrations out. Now he's into double figures. And Dane, in the first half, Kamwa and Plavcic were all over the scoreboard, despite the fact that they only had, as a team, 1 bucket at the rim. It was the mid-range that got it done, as Stevenson gets another bucket.
Well, there's going to be some times this year where the opponent has a better 5-man than Tennessee, but they won't have better 5 men, plural. It's a by committee, and the way Tennessee can sub in different types of 5s. And right now we are seeing what a Final Four type team looks like, not only on the defensive end, but when offense starts clicking as well.
We get TCU and Georgia in the national championship game. Tom Hart, Dane Bradshaw is going to ask you who your pick was. What are you wearing?
Was I supposed to do this while we were on there? My bad. Well, got to follow Stetson Bennett, man. This guy in his career, going from junior college to being benched, the chance to knock off the Georgia Bulldogs has come and gone as of this past weekend. Bulldogs repeat.
I want to be clear.
What does that say?
I'm not taking TCU. Take the over. It's 62.5. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
There's an 800 number for guys like you. Just let it go, man. Let it go. Don't you go enough?
Taken away by State, trying to find some offense. And I'll tell you what, Tyler Stevenson is showing us why he was such a great scorer in his time at Southern Miss. I have a feeling if you watch college basketball on ESPN, you're going to see a lot of eye black stickers over the next week. Ziegler gets rid of it. I'm a Max Duggan fan, though. That guy can play. It's interesting. There's a comp to be made with what TCU has accomplished, a 5-win team last year. Sonny Dykes comes in, takes them all the way to the national championship game. He said it wouldn't have been possible without the transfer portal. Ziegler with another 3. And I think, Dane, there's something to parlay that into a basketball conversation in that there is no longer patience for rebuilds because of what you can do in the portal, no matter the sport, but especially in college basketball. Quick turnaround should happen.
Yeah, because when you sit there and you think about what we used to always hear of, well, wait for him to recruit his guys. And then you got to wait for those guys to get old and try to stay old. So you're usually thinking 3 to 4 years. Every takeover program is different, but you're exactly right. It's real easy for other fans and administrations to look across and say, well, that guy got a bunch of transfers and they got good really quick. Why can't you?
I mean, there have been some impact transfers in college basketball. And some teams are playing better than others. Terrence Shannon for Illinois had a great game against Texas earlier this year. Penny's got Kendrick Davis, who is a score-first guard. K.J. Williams at LSU, Demoy Hodge at Mizzou, just 2 of the SEC impact transfers we've seen. Turnaround programs that weren't expected to have great years.
I do think as it relates to college basketball, oftentimes the ones that have the biggest advantage there is how much talent can they bring with them from their previous job.
The coach himself,
yeah. And so, if you can bring 3 studs from that mid-major program or wherever it is, then you've got a head start with building your program. Whereas if you don't and the cupboard's a little bit bare from your previous stop, it gets a little bit tougher.
Well, we've seen some impact transfers in the league. We'll see another one. You and I will see one up close and personal at Neville Arena on the Plains. Meshack got through for that one. And that's when we see Ricky Council, who has been a godsend to Arkansas with some of the injury issues they've had. He's averaging 18 points, 3 boards a game.
Big-time athlete. Interested to see how Coach Musselman treats his depth. He's a guy that doesn't like to go very deep. But in that last loss against LSU, man, he had several guys play almost 40 minutes. And so with some of those injuries, can they go a little bit deeper into their rotation?
By the way, speaking of injuries, what an incredible comeback. Guy should be the comeback player of the year right now. That's Keontae Johnson, who's given Kansas State 18 points and 7 boards a game. K-State has lost just once. There's James. Last time we saw him in a Florida uniform, he was wearing Crocs on the sideline, kind of like a coach in waiting. Couldn't get cleared at Florida. After his heart issues, goes to Kansas State, and he's having a fantastic season.
This was a guy that really was a favorite for SEC Player of the Year before that.
Yeah, he was preseason SEC Player of the Year before he collapsed against Florida State.
And you wonder if that doesn't happen and what Mike White's team at Florida might have done that season. Is Mike White still at Florida or is he at Georgia? So it's some interesting sequence of events, but we talked about LSU a little bit earlier. That was a loss they had was Keontae Johnson making a buzzer beater against them.
Illegal screen goes against Tennessee and Toby Awaka. 75-41. Tennessee led by 24 at the half. They've outscored State by another 10 here in the second half. Tennessee up 75-41. First game of the new year for Tennessee. What jumps out at you about the Tennessee January schedule?
me, I see an opportunity for the Vols to run the table. And not only that, with an 8th ranking right now, you're talking about a team that could be a 2-loss team at the end of January. Now all of a sudden you're knocking on the door of a number 2, number 1 ranking. I know a lot of things might have to happen, but those other teams ahead of them right now in the polls certainly vulnerable to drop a game between now and the end of the month. And you got Tennessee sitting there with a pretty favorable schedule and what could just be a blockbuster game against Texas here, if that's the case.
Joe Lunardi, as of today, has Tennessee as a 2 seed and the number 7 overall seed. The only SEC team in front of them is Alabama, also a 2, number 5 overall. But in a year where I don't want to say there's no clear-cut number 1. Purdue obviously playing like a number 1 team until it lost to Rutgers. UConn has looked fantastic. Kansas has looked nearly unbeatable, except Tennessee shut them down. There's really good teams in the top 4, top 5.
Right.
But certainly there's room for movement at the top of the polls.
Yeah, and in conference play where there's going to be a target on your back as you go on the road, expect the unexpected, like we saw with Purdue.
By the way, Lunardi only has the ACC getting 5 bigs. And there's a Waka, the freshman at Hyde Park, New York, getting a bucket. And the ACC having such a down year is going to leave a lot of room for others.
Yep. ACC in a similar situation that the SEC used to be, you know, many years ago, where there wasn't enough work done in non-conference for you to build a great resume in conference outside of beating Kentucky or Florida. And after that, it was just not the quality of win opportunities you needed. And that's what the ACC is starting to face, whereas the SEC has such an advantage with their strength of schedule overall and the number of teams in the conversation to where you have an opportunity just about every single week.
Soft pass by Vescovi gets taken away, and Stevenson gets another bucket. He's had a monster second half. 10 of his 11 coming since the break. He uses some clock, and it ends with a Jamon Meshack jumper.
We haven't said his name much this evening, haven't had to, but what a reliable defender he's been. Towards the end of that Ole Miss game, it was an offense for defense substitution where Rick Barnes said, hey, I got to have him on the court defensively to get the stops we want.
Mississippi State uses a timeout. Tennessee in control. No offense, defense subs needed tonight unless Dane wants to do play-by-play the final 6. That's a Sonic blockbuster. Kentucky, by the way, has its hands full with LSU tonight. 3-point UK lead, under 3 to go in the first half in Lexington. 9-4 season for Kentucky. Their worst game, take your pick, but really looked like that UCLA game where they couldn't figure out what their identity was. You saw them against Missouri last week, and the guys in studio talked about it at the half. What do you think Kentucky's best offensive identity is?
Boy, identity is the key word there, which they lack. And it's very difficult because, yes, statistically they were shooting the ball well from 3, but Missouri still forced them to take a ton of threes in that game. I don't think teams really truly respect their outside shooting, and so you can't establish an identity offensively till you really know what 5 guys play together extremely well. And they're trying to figure out what's our 4 spot look like. And Toppin coming off a better game against Louisville, but I'd still like to see Toppin emerge as a better player at the 4 for him, Sheboy at the 5, of course, and I like Wheeler and Wallace as kind of a 2-point guard lineup.
Yeah, when we were there right before Christmas, Cal was going with bigger interior play with Lance Ware at the 4, and he said, you know, maybe we can, this will free up Oscar a little bit with a little high-low. Now, the game you saw, Oscar Sheboy had a fantastic game against Missouri.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough.
But that's not enough, no. And I think another factor that's happening to Kentucky right now is they've lost a little bit of that intimidation factor. There were times where they could beat teams before the ball even tipped off.
Yeah.
Or if they got off to an early start, a 6-0, teams were like, oh, well, we just can't compete with this brand.
Once everybody saw what Buster Douglas did to Mike Tyson in Tokyo, things changed. Once Tiger Woods lost a couple of times head-to-head, the aura left.
Yeah, and they're not going to be able to out-talent teams the way they could with some of those great guards in the Calipari era. And as good as Oscar Tshiebwe is, guard play really dominates. And I think Wallace and Wheeler are really good, but just the connectivity on the offensive end has not been there. But they will get better. I've said it before. I thought Missouri caught Kentucky at the right time, where they were coming off that big bragging rights victory, and Kentucky was still trying to figure things out. I think Kentucky's got a very tough schedule in January, whereas in February it eases up a little bit. I think they could hit their stride and maybe run the table in February and be one of those hotter teams come March.
For State, Stevenson has the hot hand. They didn't get a touch on that possession. He has scored 12 of the Dogs' last 14. Loose ball corralled by DJ Jeffries. Nice look, and Stevenson scores again. That is now 14 of the last 16 for Mississippi State. He'll go to the free throw line.
Well, he has come ready to play in this second half. There's a really nice find by Davis with Stevenson streaking down the court.
Men's basketball Saturday matinee for you with Oscar Tshiebwe in Kentucky and T-Town taking on Brandon Miller, number 9 Alabama. Coverage of the Sonic Blockbuster begins at 1 Eastern on ESPN and the app. Brandon Miller will be one of the top picks in the draft. If you look at one of the draft prognostications, don't be scared away, but the top 3 picks are coming from France, the G League, Overtime Elite, and you don't get to a college player until 4, and there's only a handful of them there in the top 10. I don't know, though, the college basketball misses those other guys, because I don't know the average college basketball fan kind of knows what they're missing. Does that make sense?
Right, and college basketball has been able to retain some of those great upperclassmen with the NIL coming on board. Guys like Drew Timme, Oscar Tshiebwe, who ordinarily would not be back.
Yeah, Oscar's having a good season in the paint. He's over 1,000 rebounds to go with over 1,000 points in his career, and a good season with the bank account too. Had all that wrapped up in the Bahamas. 11 seconds left on the shot clock. When we return, Toby Awaka, the freshman out of Hyde Park, New York, has got 7, but the story has been Tyler Stevens. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Progressive Insurance. It's easy to bundle your home and car insurance at progressive.com. Downtown Knoxville, fabulous Bijou Theater down there. We can go see Tootsie tonight if we get out of here soon enough. That's at the Tennessee Theater. That's a big one. No? Not
go splurge at the Mass General store, go to Nama, get some sushi.
I could go get some sushi. Tyler Stevenson is red hot right now. He's taken over this game. He scored 10 straight in 14 of the last 16.
That's the positive for Mississippi State, but they needed more guys in double figures than just one. You hope Tolu Smith, and see if Stevenson can't have some of this success carry over to the next game, because part of Tolu Smith's frustrations down low is the lack of supporting help he has on the perimeter.
Meshack is pleading his case, not to the ref, but to Rick Barnes and the coaching staff. And it'll be a 3-shot foul with Keyshawn Murphy going there. Murphy got off to a slow start shooting the ball, but he's been stroking it well lately. Missed a lot of time last year with various injuries. He's a great player at Ramsey High School in Birmingham. By the way, I want to take a moment. I know this is a big night for Tennessee fans. It's been a big week for one Tennessee fan in particular. Our friend Susan Marie Buford reached out last week after a year-long battle. She is now cancer-free, and I know her dad and her brother and the entire family, die-hard Tennessee fans, watching tonight if they're not actually in the building. Haven't seen them, but that was a wonderful phone call to receive from Susan, and we couldn't be happier for her and her Sensational family.
Outstanding news.
81 points on the board for Tennessee, a 46-point first half. Ball shooting 69% in this game. And that will get a little bit higher. Jonas Aidoo with the first bucket. So I got 9 different Volunteers in the scoring column so far.
27 assists. I believe that ties a season high for the Vols. To have 27 assists on 34 made buckets is just incredible against a really good defensive team.
Why is that assist rate second in the country at 69%? Why is it so high for Tennessee?
Part of it is how their offense is constantly moving and cutting and coming off screens. And they're a high IQ team, and they pass the ball, they share it, and they trust their teammates enough to know that, hey, if they give it up, that doesn't mean they won't get it back later in the possession. And you got to credit Rick Barnes with that offense, where he's big on don't let the ball stick. Now, what's that mean? It's like when you touch in your hands, you basically have 1 second or less to pass, shoot, or dribble, so the ball never sticks or is held by one particular player.
Pull-up jumper is good. Martavius Russell with his first bucket.
Go out, go out.
We're going to get Key for an offensive foul. That'll be his second. May have heard this before, but a Saturday matinee for you. Kentucky goes on the road to take on number 7 Alabama Saturday 1 o'clock Eastern. It's a Sonic blockbuster. What the job Nate Oates has done with Alabama this year.
And the job he's done since he came into the SEC. I mean, this guy has been so terrific offensively. He plays that NBA style. Everybody has learned to know no mid-range shots there. But what they've done is last year they were not a high IQ team at all. They didn't commit to the defensive end. Now they've got that balance where they're top 20 according to KenPom in both categories, offense and defense.
Kind of coin on the floor now for Tennessee. It's really contrasting styles, isn't it? I mean, John Calipari does what he does, and old school in many ways. And Nate Oates has said, you know, we're second in the league in scoring. We're going to get up and down the floor. Good opportunity to run the floor. Bowen gets his first bucket.
How about that? The celebration of the night from that Tennessee bench.
We're waiting for Isaiah Sulak to get a shot and get a bucket in. The role of a walk-on is pretty simple. Defer in practice, but if you ever get in a game that's decided, you've got to be the most selfish guy on the floor, get a shot on it.
Don't forget, have straight A's.
That's true. You also, it's good if you have a car, have good GPA, willing rebounder. Sulak kind of got off balance a little bit. Awaka gets the bucket. Well, Tennessee scored the first 16 points in this game. Never looked back. Volunteers with a season high 28 assists on 36 buckets. And it will be a comfortable win for Rick Barnes' team. Could be the start of something really special this month, as you pointed out. How about that? Coins getting all over the box score. Got a bucket and a block. Ziegler mean mugging loves it. He's got a double-double tonight. Points and assists.
You talk about making the most of your minutes. Mississippi State's going to drive in, and Coin says, no soup for you. Glad I got it in.
Yep. I was afraid we weren't going to get that tonight. I have something tied me over until I see you on Saturday. This will be the largest margin of victory for Tennessee in a series that dates to 1924. That was at the end of the shot clock. Tennessee will hold it. No reason to get off another. 34-point win for the Volunteers. They are now 12-2 on the season. Rick Barnes' team now 2-0 in the league.
Tom, you mentioned the hot start Tennessee had. They knocked Mississippi State to the mat, and they never let them get up. As impressive as the start of this game was, I was equally impressed at Tennessee's ability to keep their foot on the gas. On the offensive end, they got things clicking in a much-needed way from deep. So watch out for Tennessee. This is so much more of a dangerous team when they got their offense rolling to complement that defense as well.
You know, it's tough if you're running graphics tonight because you've been asked to summarize this game graphically, and I just don't know where you start and where you end. 16-0 run, 5 balls in double figures. All of that is great right in the middle. Ziegler had a double-double, the 15th Volunteer with 11 points and 10 assists. And a dominating performance by Tennessee tonight all the way through. Santiago Vescovi got all of his points in the first half, and the Vols with the 4th highest field goal percentage in school history. They shot 69%.
Been an amazing performance. 28 assists on 36 made baskets. Doesn't get much better than that if you're Rick Barnes.
87-53 is our final here tonight. Tennessee takes care of Mississippi State. For Dane Bradshaw, our fantastic crew, I'm Tom Hart. Have a great night, everybody.